The thumbnail that you're seeing for this video is taken directly from a Dragon Ball Super side chapter that explains how Future Gohan survived the android threat, what eventually happened to the Pilaf gang, and the fate of the other Z-Fighters. And the existence of Future Goku is actually a very interesting one because his existence itself puts into question a lot about the continuity of the Dragon Ball franchise. But, for starters, the first major difference between Future Goku and the current Goku that we know in the main timeline is clearly what happened to Frieza and King Cold. In the original timeline, and also in the History of Trunks timeline, you have to think, well, somebody must have killed Frieza in a timeline where Trunks wasn't able to go there and kill them directly himself going back in time, and this character was Goku. And the interesting thing about this is that when you think about the fact that Goku didn't have a weapon, but he's also extremely powerful, you kind of wonder how he actually fared against King Cold and Frieza directly. Was it a situation where Goku just killed them really fast, or was it a situation where it was a drawn-out fight, it was a tough battle, and they teamed up on Goku, but he eventually came out in the end? It's a very interesting question, but considering the fact that Goku was able to hold off Trunks with a sword with basically one finger, and Trunks was very impressed with Goku's power level, that would clearly suggest that the power gap between Goku, Frieza, and King Cold was so massive that he definitely didn't have any time struggling. And if we were to analyze how Future Goku killed Frieza and King Cold specifically, in all likelihood what probably happened is Goku teleported to Earth as said, as he was supposed to originally. He used instant transmission to come and kill Frieza and King Cold, and he probably gave them some sort of warning for them to get off the planet because it doesn't seem in character for Goku to just come and kill them. And of course, knowing Frieza the way that he is, he would make some aggressive move towards either some other character, Goku, or the planet itself. And as a result of this, Goku would have to fully power up and kill Frieza and King Cold quickly. Now, the reason why I say he would have to do this quickly is because they're on his planet. They're not fighting on a neutral territory, and as a result of this, Goku really can't take many risks because he will be fighting a 2 versus 1 battle. And a lot of Dragon Ball fans have also put into question whether or not King Cold could actually transform, because against both Trunks and Goku, King Cold never transformed. But if we were to assume that King Cold's body is similar to Frieza because Frieza was basically born asexually from King Cold, so you would think that they have similar genetics. As a result of that, you would think that, well, if King Cold is only in his second form, if he fully powered up, then Trunks and Goku would basically stand no chance. Or you can just say this is the way that King Cold is basically supposed to look, and his physiology is simply just different from Frieza, or Frieza just found ways to manipulate transformations differently from his father, and as a result of that, King Cold truly was as strong as he was, because in both situations he never made an attempt to transform, and both Trunks and Goku were clearly able to take him down. So this definitely seems in character for how Goku would have defeated both Frieza and King Cold. But when we actually move on from this, we have to talk about the level of training, because since Goku never got a warning from Trunks from the future about what was going to happen with the androids, he would have trained significantly less, and as a result of this, he pretty much would have been by far the strongest character, considering the fact that the only one who would have trained as much would have been a character like Vegeta and Piccolo. And obviously, if we're looking at the future timeline, Piccolo would have never have even thought about fusing with Kami in that particular point. So you'd have a situation where basically all of the other characters would have been far weaker in their base forms. But this directly connects to Gohan directly, because one thing that Dragon Ball fans haven't really talked about is it's obvious that future Gohan is clearly weaker than the present version of himself because he didn't train as much. But what you also have to remember is that our current version of Gohan trained twice, because he trained before the android threat actually arrived, and then he went into the Room of Spirit in time. Whereas when you think about it from Future Gohan's perspective, because there was no android threat, and nobody ever thought about the androids in the first place and training for the androids, he, in all likelihood, was just studying under Chi-Chi's supervision and lived a normal, peaceful life and had absolutely no fighting in his life. And then suddenly one day his dad dies of a heart virus, and then months later the androids come and then basically kill everybody. And in all of this time, Gohan wouldn't have been training at all, so he basically has to reteach himself how to train and fight all by himself. And that's even harder considering the fact that Piccolo and all of the other characters were completely dead at that point. So, when you really actually think about it, it makes even more sense why Future Gohan struggled the way that he did, because he had a lot less training on top of the fact that all of the other characters that would have helped him all died all at once, and he has to figure everything out on his own. But if we reverse for just a second here, guys, the death of Goku in the heart virus is actually rather interesting, because in getting the heart virus, it was said that it was supposed to be a very contagious virus, which is why it was instructed for Yamcha to take some of the medication along with Chi-Chi so that they wouldn't get sick. But when we look at what Goku was in the History of Trunks timeline, all of the other characters were near him, and you would think, in all likelihood, that the other characters may have been infected by this. Now, clearly you can just say the writing clearly just wrote Goku to die, and for the other characters to live in the future timeline without Goku, but that is something interesting thinking about the contagion itself. But when we go back to Future Gohan, another interesting thing is the 13 years that have passed of him fighting the androids on Earth, and Goku was in the afterlife the entire time. You can say, once again, that it's bad writing, but it just feels rather out of character that Goku would have knowledge that his son was struggling against the androids for all of these years, and he wouldn't give him any advice or talk to him or have some form of communication to try and fix the situation. Especially when you have other characters like Piccolo and Krillin who also went to the afterlife, and it's implied that they most likely met Goku. And these characters themselves love Gohan very dearly, and they have no attempt at trying to help him at all. And when we find out later on that Baba can mix the rules up a little bit to give a one-day pass and all of that stuff, it brings up a lot of questions as to what exactly was Goku just doing in the afterlife. Now, we can just assume, because Goku likes to fight, that he would be training. Apart from getting a one-day pass, a very simple solution to the problem would simply be to just bring Gohan and Trunks to the afterlife. Because Baba has the ability to go back and forth between the Earth and the living, and in all likelihood we can assume that Baba never died in the future timeline because she can just go to the afterlife, so the androids were never really a threat to her specifically, and Master Roshi was also alive. So in all likelihood, because Baba can just live in the afterlife and she doesn't have to worry about the androids, she in all likelihood survived, and because she can just teleport characters from the living world to the dead, or Goku can use his instant transmission if he's given permission, Gohan could have easily have just gone into the afterlife and just trained with Goku or the other dead fighters, and that would have been the solution to basically everything. But once again, we have to have a story where obviously the characters wouldn't make a logical decision, and obviously the hyperbolic time chamber was not a viable option at this particular point in time, as implied with Yajirobe, because it's implied that the tower was destroyed because Korin gave his life for Yajirobe, and Yajirobe is always with Korin on that tower. And the interesting thing about this too is also when we start thinking about the future timeline that we see in Dragon Ball Super, because you see Goku from the present timeline fighting against Goku Black in Trunks' future, and all while this is going on, there's an entire afterlife of dead Z fighters that probably are aware or observing this battle and have had absolutely no involvement in it at all. Now, in all likelihood, we can probably assume, if we were to do a little bit of power scaling here, that Future Goku never really reached the peaks that he would have gotten as compared to his current counterpart, but we can assume, considering the fact that in the afterlife that there's less strain on your body because you're dead, and because there's also a lot of other dead fighters that Goku can train with, in all likelihood, Goku most likely at least probably achieved Super Saiyan 2. And the reason why we can say this, and even possibly Super Saiyan 3, is considering the fact that there's just so much time that has passed. And when you also think about that and the fact that Goku can actually train with a lot of others outside of just having a small group of fighters on Earth, he has all of the Z fighters that he would have trained with on Earth that are in the afterlife to train with in the afterlife. And as a result of it, it's not hard to believe that Goku would have gotten at least around as strong as he would have been in the Buu arc. Now, granted, it would have taken a lot more time because there would have been no hyperbolic time chamber and specialized training, but when you think about how much time actually passed, 13 years plus, and then when we're also considering even more time passing, when Goku Black and all of the other events took place, Goku's had a lot more time to train than you actually think. And because of all of these reasons, it's very likely that Goku definitely achieved higher levels of Super Saiyan, even if he still would have been weaker than his main-time counterpart. But in the comment section below, let me know how strong you think Future Goku ultimately got as our final question of the day.